Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 423. On the next episode, we're heading up to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and we're going to meet up with a friend of mine, Frans, Diepstraten. And Hans is originally from the Netherlands, and he came over to Canada simply because he wanted more opportunity for himself, and he loves to hunt, and he loves to chase wild sheep and elk and moose and anything else on 4 feet. So he headed this way with his wife, and he works there in the Calgary area. But more important than that, he's a full-time hunter. He's a hunter 365 days a year, and he's going to talk about that extensively. What does that mean? Well, that means he stays in shape. He keeps his gear in shape. He keeps his shooting practices. He does all those things just for that 1 5-second opportunity that the critters give him. So I think you're going to enjoy the show. I know I do every time I talk to Frans. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is the host and the executive producer, Bruce Hutchin. And we're heading north of the border. We're heading up around Calgary. And we're going to connect with Frans Diepstraten. And Frans was initially from the Netherlands, and we're going to get into how he got over to Canada and all his hunting experiences. And we're going to talk about the factor of conditioning. And the thing we're really going to unpack, folks, is why do you hunt? Frans, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
Well, how did the guy in the Netherlands get into the Canadian Rockies? Let's talk about that right away.
Oh, well, that can be a very long story or a very short story. But growing up in Europe, after about 4 decades there, things became pretty congested. So if you live in a country like the Netherlands with about 18 million people, that doesn't sound all that much until you realize that the whole country is only 200 miles from north to south and about 120, 130 miles east to west. So you can imagine how densely populated that is. So if you like the outdoors and you like a little bit of freedom, that's hard to find sometimes. So we got kind of fed up with all that. We're also not too keen on the whole developments around the European Union, but that's a political thing that we probably won't touch on. So we started looking around the globe. So where could we possibly go? And my wife initially vetoed Canada because she figured it would be too cold. She also vetoed anything where they wouldn't speak any English. So that made the globe a little smaller, but looking at all the immigration regulations, Canada actually turned out to be the easiest option. And within Canada, we kind of looked at where can we find mountains and employment opportunity very close together. And so the Calgary area in Alberta was pretty good that way. Some other areas that come to mind, but like Vancouver, but that has the same congestion problems that we were just leaving. So, yeah, we ended up applying for immigration and got accepted. And the rest is history.
Well, that's good on you. And let's just talk a little about the hunting tradition. I know in the warm up and in previous conversations we've talked about how driven hares and like that. So, why don't you share with the listeners? just was it what it was like as a young man and hunting in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's not as easy as in North America getting into it anyway. Unless I guess you have family that's already hunting, and so my dad never really hunted, but his lifetime friend and my uncle hunted from an early age, and his dad hunted, and so it was. It's mostly lease-based hunting in much of Europe, meaning that the landowner generally has the right to hunt, but he can lease that out to anybody he wants, usually for a fee. So my uncle and friends of his and neighbors and usually came together a couple times a year to do driven shoots for pheasant and hare, mostly hare, but pheasants too. And they shot some geese whenever they came in into the country when it's cold enough up north. And as a young kid, I tagged along. I was 6, 7 years old, trying not to be too much in the way, and just gawked at all the guys with side by side shotguns, and it was just kind of a magical environment for a young kid. But it wasn't really until my early 20s that I was able to do the mandatory hunting course that required about 13 weeks of evenings to at a remote location. So, and if you don't have a vehicle, you can't get there. But early 20s, I was able to buy a little car and do that course and do all the practical training that was required, and take the exam. And then finally, I got my hunting license. So then it only required me to be bold enough to ask my uncle if I could come along. And he said, yeah, well, okay, yeah, sure, why don't you? So my first hunt was actually a duck hunt. And we went out to the river. And I still recall the muzzle blast that comes out of a 12 gauge at dusk. That only shot during the day, but that last couple of minutes, I thought came close enough. I actually managed to shoot it, so that was kind of my inauguration into the hunting fraternity, so to speak. But opportunity is generally not that easy to get out there. Again, like I said, if you know people and you get invited, or you have lots of money that you can get a lease for yourself, then opportunity is there. But if you're a new kid on the block and without connections, it can be pretty challenging to actually get into hunting. So that said, there's only so much land to go around. Also, so there's only so much hunting you can do during the year, and that I wanted more out of that type of activity. So that was one of the reasons we slowly started thinking about going somewhere where there was a lot more opportunity to be outdoors and to enjoy hunting.
Now, is your wife a huntress or goes afield with you?
No, not at all. No, she doesn't even like to go on a hike. Sometimes we go out and we do little strolls, but she's definitely not a nature person. Much more a city girl.
Wow, and she came all the way. She left the homeland and came all the way to Canada, so you could follow your dream. What a woman!
Yeah. She must love me. That was I think that was quite a step for her to take. It was definitely a lot easier for me because you come into a situation where you look for a job and you have daytime things and you can follow your hobbies on the spare time. But for her, it was much more a challenge for sure.
That's great. And now we're in Calgary. We're in the Canadian Rockies, and you can hunt a lot of game, right out your back door. Literally, I've been up in that country a few times, and I mean, there's a heck of a lot of game within 100, 200 miles of where you are. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. We can hunt. I don't know how many species, 9 or 10 or something like that. It's whitetail and mule deer are just outside of town here, available. Sometimes you have black bears coming into town here. I just live northwest of Calgary in a smaller community. I drive 70, 80 miles, and sheep country starts. So you can hunt sheep. There's elk. Like I said, black bear are available pretty much everywhere. If you're lucky, well, you don't need to be lucky, but you can hunt cougar every year if you want. They even have opened up a foot season for cougar just recently, so you don't even have to chase them with hounds. What am I missing? There's a mountain goat season if you're lucky enough to draw, and there's also a bison season again, once in a lifetime draw opportunity for that.
Is that woodland bison?
Yes, yeah. The bison story is quite the story, but we have sort of a hybrid bison that lives up near Fort McMurray and the Woodland Buffalo National Park. Back, I think it was the 20s. Back in the 20s, they transported up a load of prairie bison up to that park, and of course there was a remnant population of wood bison, so they interbred, and now we have a sort of a mixed hybrid going on there. But there's woodland bison further to the west in the province as well.
Now, have you ever hunted bison?
No, I have not. No. It's those hunts are logistically quite challenging. You have to go up north to Fort Mac. That country is pretty much a swampy area during much of the year, so it's very hard to get around. So they're mostly hunted during the winter when everything's frozen up. But then you're looking at temperatures of minus 30 and colder. So you're going to be needing a couple of snowmobiles at least. Wall tents with heaters and things like that. So it's quite a logistical enterprise to actually hunt these things on your own. So I've never gone through the effort. No.
And they're also quite large.
Yeah. When you have one down, then the work really starts. So you'd have to be, at least with 3 guys, better 4 guys, I think, and 3 snowmobiles. So you have enough manpower to cut it up really quickly and to have it into pieces before it starts freezing. And then, you have the redundancy in equipment too. That if one machine fails, that you still have 2 machines to get you out, things like that. So it's quite the thing. I've never had the guts to organize that.
Hey, let's stay right on Canada. And now you've hunted whitetails. How is that? What type of hunt is that? Is it spot and stalk? Do you use tree stands?
For whitetails,
yeah.
I think a lot of hunting is done in tree stands or ground blinds. I've not done that much. In Europe we had to, because we had a very, very small lease in about 400 acres maybe, and there was 3 or 4 of us hunting that. So you had to be in a tree stand or you'd risk shooting each other. But I kind of vowed to not be in a tree stand anymore, because now we have the opportunity to run around, and there are some spot and stalk opportunities. If you go to the south, where the country is more open, you get lots of prairies and coulees, and you can spot them, you can see where they bed, and you can try to stalk them. So it's probably less successful than having a tree stand on a good trail, but it's I find it a little bit more exciting.
Thanks for that. And, let's talk about the hunt, the Canadian hunt. And obviously you do a lot. So you're going on an elk hunt, or sheep hunt. When does that hunt begin?
Well, basically, like most of us, I guess you think about it year round. But for sheep, we're in the lucky circumstances that we can buy an over-the-counter tag, so you can start planning really early. So when it comes to time planning, the opening week is usually a good time to go out, because sheep are still unpressured, they're still under summer ranges, and you might find them there. So the thing just starts by picking your period. You want to do opening week, you want to do the last week, when you maybe start seeing some sheep get into the ruts and leaving some of the protected areas. So that's the first thing. But I think it starts way earlier, because you're always fiddling with your gear and you're always preparing physically to get ready for sheep hunt. So I think, truthfully, sheep hunt next year's sheep hunt start when this year's sheep hunt is over.
And thanks for that. And listeners, I know a lot of you, hunt the back 40, or you got 120 acres, whatever. But, think about, as I know a lot of you do, being a 365 hunter, because, the deer and the opportunity to hunt is available to us all year long. And the preparation and studying and shed hunting and all that, or just working your land and seeing where the rubs are and things like that. So think about becoming a 365 hunter, and definitely if you're going to head out west, that's a minimum of 12 months, if not 18-month, quest to get ready logistically, and get your gear. And let's talk about, getting your gear ready. You hunt with a bow and arrow, is that correct?
Yeah, I've hunted both for the last couple of years, predominantly with bow and arrow, yeah.
And so, let's talk about how you get ready to hit the mountains. It could be for a moose, it could be for an antelope, mule deer, whitetail. Let's talk about how you get ready for your hunt.
Well, over the years, you've kind of developed a system, so it's easier now than it used to be. But you kind of have your gear kind of ready. The minimum things you're going to be needing. You're going to need a tent. You're going to need a sleeping bag and something to lie on. So those are kind of the big items that fill up your backpack. Then there's some things that you need to bring, like communication devices. I use an InReach these days, so I can shoot the odd text via satellite to home to see if everything is okay, and then you bring some basic medical stuff to get over cuts and bruises and things like that, and just hope that nothing worse happens than that. You're gonna look at your clothing. I used to bring a lot of spare clothing that filled up the pack, and I'm starting to get more minimalistic, trying to just get by with what I leave the house with on my body, and maybe a couple of spare one spare base layer maybe, and some extra warm stuff. That's kind of important when you go into the mountains. It can be 30 degrees, or that's Celsius, I guess. So it can be 80s down in town, but then when you get into the high country, you can get snow any time of the year. So you need to be prepared for that with rain gear and some warm gear. So you got to have that ready. Cooking, you got to have either. Yeah, you can rely on having making a campfire, but as the situation is right now here in Canada, there's a fire ban everywhere in the mountains because it's so dry. So you can't rely on being able to make a fire. So you got to have some sort of stove with propane. And most people, I guess, will take some freeze-dried food. I've recently switched to dehydrated food. There's a small company in Alaska called Heather's Choice that makes quite flavorful and healthy food that's dehydrated. So
what's basically the same company again?
It's called Heather's Choice.
HEPA or Heather?
Heather, yeah, Heather's Choice. Yeah, it's a small company. I think started a couple of years ago, and but really making big strides. And what I like about it is that first, it has more flavor than the average freeze-dried food, and she uses only healthy ingredients, so you know what's in the food you're eating. So helps you, I guess, keep your system operating if you're in the backcountry for a longer period of time.
Yeah, and folks, if you do go on a DIY backpack hunt, or you're away from a base camp, you need protein, you need carbs. You have to have them, or your body's just gonna stop. I mean, it's amazing how much you burn in the mountains. Your thought on that, Frans?
Yeah, absolutely. I have friends who get by on gummy bears and Snickers bars, and seriously, I don't know how they do it. I can't live on a diet like that, especially not in the mountains. So what kind of food you need to bring? We can talk for 3 podcasts about that. But, there's a some people out there that say that your protein, but also good fats are very important to sustain you.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com.
And to help you be enduring in the mountains. And that's one of the reasons why I like that food that I mentioned, because of she puts lots of protein in there. It's a small package. There's lots of good fats in there that help you help keep you going, and there's carbs in there too, but not in the form of refined sugars. So it's really really good food. And I find without that, after a few days you start feeling so rotten from just eating all this crummy food and candy that you just can't keep hunting with the same intensity. So yeah, food's very important.
Yeah, and I would stay away from the sugars. I drink a lot of tea when I'm in the mountains, and so I have a lot of honey, and so that's a good source right there. But stay away from the Snicker bars and any kind of you said gummy bears, and I love M&Ms, and I do have it in my trail mix, but you just got to stay away from that, because this world, this environment is completely different than your 40, because you could be back in your truck, back at the cabin, back at the farmhouse, inside of maybe 20, 30 minutes. Well, in the mountains, you might be 3, 4, 5 hours from your truck.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so you have to live on what you bring. You can't rely on making a quick dash back to safety or back to the grocery store.
Yeah, and if at ptarmigan in season, yeah, you have an opportunity to get some ptarmigan. You hit some high altitude lakes. If the ice hasn't hit them, opportunity to get some trout. But that isn't something that you get a bank on, for your daily supplement. And the only thing I would say, and then we'll move on away from the food, is have a daily plan. You're going to be in the mountains for 10 days, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks for every single day. And then you can actually there's some good companies out there that do this online, and it'll help you calculate the protein, the carbs, the calories for each day, and you'd be surprised. Forget 2,000 calories. You're going to be up to around 5,000 calories to keep your engine going. Frans, let's talk about that and then move on.
Yeah, and 5,000 calories are a lot of calories to eat and digest. So you may not be able to eat that much, but yeah, you got to really strive to eat a lot more and a lot better than you do when you're sitting on the couch. That's for sure.
So let's just segue into, okay, so I'm going to hit the mountains, and I don't know what type of shape I'm in. So let's talk about conditioning and how you're a 365-day, I'm not going to say gym rat, but you're in shape 365 days a year. You're working at it.
Yeah, no, that's true. And when you say gym rat, I used to be a gym rat. When I came out of high school, I think I weighed about 115 pounds at age 18, and I did hit the gym. I managed to put on some weight, but I'm still pretty scrawny. I think, for most people, it's a big challenge. You have to transition from sitting at your desk for 8 hours and then watching TV at night to go hiking up and down a mountain for 8 hours and sitting on a rock. And not only for one day, but you got to do it for 5 days or 8 days or 10 days in a row. So that's quite a challenge. Now, generally, I find that when you're hunting in the mountains, a mountain hunter is built from the legs up. Your legs are kind of what keeps you going. So you mentioned gym rat. If you hit the gym, don't focus on getting big biceps, because that doesn't really help you get up the mountain. So yeah, I try to be active, as you said, 365 days a year, and it's kind of three things that a number of things that I try to work on. You look at a marathon runner, you think he'd be in decent shape, right, and he'd be okay for mountain hunting. But I think we've seen a few examples where it's proven that that's not the case. Put a marathon runner, put 50 pounds on his back, and put him on in a field of scree, and he has to work up that. He'll probably do okay for a while, but I don't think he'll be up to the challenge of doing it for days and days on end. So I'll give one example, and I don't know how it translates to humans, but a couple of years ago I read up on training horses for endurance racing, and what they said was something to the effect that it takes about 3 weeks to get a horse's muscles up and going. It takes 3 months to get their lungs to where it needs to be, but it takes 3 years to get the tendons and joints trained up to the level where they can do an endurance race of 25 or 50 or more miles of running. Well, that's maybe a bit extreme for your average mountain hunter, but it does show that you just need to start as early as you can to get ready for this hunt. And and with early, I don't mean 2 months or 3 months, because you can probably pull off a hunt, but you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be suffering. So what I try to do is having spent so much time in the gym, I'm kind of shying away from that now. I just try to hit the mountains and the slopes as often as I can. You try to find uneven terrain to get your ankles and your hips and everything used to wobbly terrain and to sudden moves to correct your balance and things like that. Put weight on your back, so gradually increase. You make sure you don't hurt yourself. Start with 10 pounds and go, and that's very important to go up and down anything that you can find. It's easy for me to say I have a hill behind the house and mountains within 45 minutes. If you're living in the flats, that's going to be more of a challenge. But you got to get creative. Find stairs somewhere, and if you have to, go up and down from your basement to your second floor and back, and do that for an hour or so. So climbing and weight on your back and gradually increase it without hurting yourself. And then, of course, there's the elevation to take into consideration. I live at 4,000 feet and hunted up and climbed up to 11,000, and it didn't bother me much. But other people, coming from sea level, you might start noticing it's quicker. One way of increasing your ability to deal with the less oxygen in the air is interval training. Interval training, I mean, just sprints. Do uphill sprints if you can. Run upstairs for shorter periods of time, like 10 to 30 seconds. You walk back down and do that 5 times in a row. You'll give it 5 minutes and try and do it again 5 times in a row. Those types of training really increases your body's ability to transport oxygen, and that'll help you when you have to hunt at elevation. And then, last advice, I guess, is try and do something every day of the year, because your hunt is going to be 10 days maybe, and you got to perform 10 days. A friend of mine usually has a quote. He says, well, if you can hunt as hard on day one of your hunt as on the last day of your hunt as you did on day one, you're doing okay. And that's pretty true. But to do that, you have to work at it. So as an example, for my last 7 days here, last Wednesday we climbed about almost 5,000 feet to a 10,000 foot high mountain. The next day we did a 2-hour hike with weight. Friday I took off. Saturday and Sunday we went scouting, so I had a backpack on for 2 days. Monday morning we did a lightweight run up a mountain about 2,200 feet, and then yesterday evening I did the same again, but then with 25 pounds on on my back. That's kind of the training regime that gives me the confidence that hopefully when it comes to the go time, I'm ready and I can do it indeed for 5 or 8 or 10 days in a row without slowing down.
How much elevation was that over the last week that you gained?
Let me do a rough one, 5,000, 10,000, probably around 15,000 feet.
Okay, so think of that, folks. 3 miles, of elevation climb, and living out in Colorado as I do, I know if I haven't paid attention to my cardio and my strength of my legs, even to go to 1,000 feet, just kicks my butt. It really does, and that's how much it can, just the elevation change can suck it out of you. Plus the air, you're going, where's the air? Where's the air? So, heed what Frans is saying. And Frans, let's wrap up the show and spend a few minutes here talking about something that you had on crooked-arrow.com. And that's your blog. Let's talk about the blog real quick and tell people why you started it.
Well, we started. I got this idea to make life hunting life even more difficult, and start doing hunting with a longbow this year. I put a longbow together a couple of years ago, and I shot that thing, and the first time I fired an arrow out of it, I was hooked. You could actually see the arrow jump off the shelf and make the arch to the target. And that was such an experience that I thought I need to do more of this. So I bought a custom longbow at the end of last year, and I figured, me being so new to all this, I thought I'd share some experiences from the perspective of a new guy in the traditional archery world. And then hopefully I'll have some interesting stories, and hopefully there's also some lessons learned that other people that will try to get into it can take away from that. And besides that, I just like writing and sharing my thoughts. So that's kind of how we started it.
That's good. And what's the URL again?
It's crooked-arrow.com.
Thanks for that. And so, why do you hunt? That came right out of his blog at crooked-arrow.com. And I really liked what he said. And so we're going to we're going to wrap the show up with his thoughts on why do you hunt?
Yeah, I always find it a bit of a tough question to answer because it's usually such a loaded question. I recently read a book that I can really recommend. It's called A Hunter's Heart by David Peterson. It has about 40 essays on hunting, and there's lots of people in there trying to explain why they hunt, but also why they not hunt, and a lot of challenging thoughts on the regular reasons that you just throw out there when you talk about why you hunt. We're always quick to say, we do it for wildlife management and conservation, but truly, I don't think there's too many of us that wake up in the morning, grab their rifle or bow, and walk out in the woods and think, well, I'm going to contribute to conservation today. Right? That's not why you're out there. I think for me, it started out with food. Seeing my dad butcher up a hare in the shed, and that was kind of planted the seed, and getting. I'd spend days as a beater on those driven shoots to just on the off chance that maybe there was a hare or a pheasant left over when everybody would have their share, and I could take that home. And I've never been good at passing up legal animals, especially not when we were in Europe. Basically, we filled our quota by shooting the first deer that came around, just because we like to have the meat that much. But I think there's more to it. When you go out into the mountains, you find that when you hike, you're sort of a bystander. You go in and you go out and you enjoyed it, and you enjoyed the views, and that was it. But when you hunt, you're much more participating. You look at everything that you need to see. You look for tracks, you look for sign, you play the wind. Plus, I find that's a very big thing too. When you're out there, all the decisions that you make are yours 100%. Right, during your work day and with family and with friends, and you always have to take things into consideration. How might other people feel? How might this affect that? when you're out hunting, especially when you're out hunting on your own, you live by your decisions 100%, and I find that pretty liberating to experience. So yeah, it's always a good time on the mountain, and those are kind of my drivers.
Now, when you talked about why do you hunt, you talked about, questions that people ask you. Can't you buy meat at the store, or are you one of those trophy hunters?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially my boss who doesn't hunt and I think is probably anti-hunting has a tendency to throw these bombs out there. Um, so yeah, can't you buy meat at the store? Yeah, obviously you can. I'm not sure how that changes things because whatever you buy at the store has been bred for that purpose and has been killed by somebody else. Um, the animals that we hunt generally had a better life, and even their death is a lot more pleasant. They didn't get dragged around a big semi to the meat processing plant and had to stand there and wait for their shot to the head. So that is. I don't think why buying meat to the store is any different than me collecting it myself. When it comes to trophy hunting, that's such a loaded word, and I hate it. I hunt, I shoot an animal, and sometimes it has antlers on its head. I always take him home. I usually clean him, and only when it's a very special occasion or a very special event, I actually take it to the taxidermist and have a mount made of it. I bring it in my home and I see it every day and I enjoy it. And it's just a way of bringing the mountains into your house, I guess. And at the same time, your freezer is full of meat, and that gives you a happy feeling too when you open it up and you see all those packages, and you can grab some steak or burger. That really makes me feel pretty good inside. So, is that trophy hunting? I don't know. It's just hunting to me, and I think that the trophy hunting is something that's misused by people who don't understand or who maybe have an agenda against hunting.
Thanks for sharing that. And with that, why don't you take a minute or two and get some shout outs to your partner, Kyle, Steed, or whoever else you want, and then we're going to wrap the show.
Okay. Yeah, Kyle Steed, the poor guy, I kind of suckered him into joining in this experience of going on a long, going hunting with a longbow. He's in the unhappy circumstance. He's still waiting for his to arrive. We purchased our bows at Stalker Stick Bows, South Cox. The owner there had to move and then wait for his new permit. So Kyle is unfortunately still waiting. As I said, I really like the Heather's Choice food. That's something I can recommend. It's a taste that maybe some people might not enjoy because it's fairly spicy, fairly tasty. So just try some and see if you like it. It's healthy. That's why I enjoy it. I think that's about it for companies or things like that. I'm not a pro staff or I'm not sponsored. Or I'm just a guy going out hunting and enjoying being in the mountains. So.
Well, Frans, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, and we're crawling up on actually 160,000 listeners across North America. Thanks for just sharing, life in the Rockies and being a hunter. As you say, and a few others have said, well, I'm nothing special. I just hunt. And that makes you special in my eyes because hunting is a tradition. Hunting is a value that I hold, and all the people on the show hold the same value. So I really appreciate you being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
It was a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Coming up on the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous is Tim Chelsvik. Now, Tim is the host of the Thinking Woodsman's podcast. And the show is dedicated to help us all think about hunting, think about strategies, think about our industry, think about how we can get kids in the outdoors. So he's got a really great podcast going on. And the thing is that he's going to share today is that the outdoor industry is full of folks waiting for the next best thing. Do you really know how to set yourself apart and be successful? because he's going to talk about what makes you saleable, makes you marketable, what makes you promotable in the outdoor industry. Tim's got a wealth of information, and I can't wait to share his story with. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. With you.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.